Can I just check, Matt, can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, ready to go. All right. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Port Commission meeting of the city or the Port of Cascade Locks. It is Tuesday, January 20th, about 2026, about a little after 6 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Lorraine,
Aye, here.
Vice President Fu, here. Commissioner Nats,
Here.
Commissioner Gann,
Here.
Commissioner Dodd is excused.
All right. Modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
Not this evening.
All righty. Consent agenda, approval of minutes for December 16th, 2025, commission meeting, and commission meeting, January 6th, 2026. Commission meeting, and ratification of bills in the amount of $808,183.18. Approval of payroll for December 19th, 2025 in the amount of $40,786.72.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety as stated.
I'll second. Okay, been a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, public comment. Anybody out in TV land who wants to put their 2 cents in, now is the time. All right, hearing none, we're moving along. Discussion. Comprehensive Land Use and Real Estate Investment Plan, Matt Craigie, Eco Northwest.
We have Matt with us tonight from Eco Northwest. As you remember, we $50,000 from Business Oregon, $50,000 from Business Oregon for the port planning and marketing grant. We use this opportunity to take a look at all of our current holdings and real estate holdings to evaluate the basically a SWOT analysis of each one of those, and that's something that Eco Northwest has been working on for us. This is a large part of creating a roadmap for the port and the real estate holdings that we have. Although some of these projects can be considerably years away, as well as still a question mark for funding, they do make us eligible for grants that may in fact move some of these projects along, whether it's a funding or a planning grant, or a study that we need in order to advance these. As you know, through the campground, each one of those requires a number of those. And so by completing this plan, this helps us be more prepared and more likely to get grants that could help move some of these projects along. So Matt will talk to us about what he came up with.
Great. Thank you, Jeremiah. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Matt Craigie. I'm project director with Eco Northwest. We're an economics consulting firm with a few offices around the West. I'm in Portland through the windy corridor that are missing names. So wonderful to be here with you all in person. What we're going to be doing tonight is going through kind of a shortened version of the investment plan. I think that you have the full version in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions from some of the slides that I'm not surfacing here in a nice presentation. What I'd like to do is focus in on the property by property plan that we put together. So like Jeremiah talked about, this is a roadmap. So what a roadmap does, it tries to take a look at all of your properties, you do some analysis, looked at your strategic plan, looked at other aligned plans here within the community, and tries to sequence a number of actions together on each of those properties to align with those strategic goals of your commission and of the port in a way that is spurs economic growth and economic resilience. Next slide, please. Thank you. My follow along over there too. So, terrific. So like I was talking about, this investment plan is a roadmap. It goes into some detail. You'll see there's a lot of content in that final document that we send to you, but it's not something you can take to the bank or you can take to Darren and say, okay, all right, where are the pipes going to serve this property? The whole point, again, is to have that roadmap at a higher level to say, you know, in the near term, here are some actions that you should be thinking about on this particular property. And here's how those actions tee in the midterm, long-term actions ultimately achieve your goal on that particular site there. So it's again, it's an alignment of actions across all the properties. Next slide, please. So a little bit of things that you know, but to ground the audience and others around where the port is at and thinking about economic development here in Cascade Locks in this part of the gorge. There's this terrific intersection between some of the businesses and industries that you have within the community that are focused around agriculture and food and beverage, and also with recreation and tourism. And so we see that in your strategic plan, we see that in some of the city's work, and some of the past actions focused on some of the properties there. So this plan aligns with that strategy of thinking about the positioning of Cascade Locks' economy around those pillars of food and bev, recreation, and tourism. And we'll talk about that, how that manifests on a property basis as we get into the review of each site.
You click form first.
Yeah.
You have to click form first. You're doing it first.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. Look here. Yeah. Thanks. Next slide. So a little bit of foundational work here around the investment plan. Again, this is these are things that have emerged from conversations with your staff, and then also a review of the strategic plan and other past work. So the goals of this investment plan are to responsibly manage and invest in 4 areas of being a good steward and being strategic about investments in your properties, fostering and retaining a diverse and resilient local economy. I like the word retain in there that Jeremiah reminded us to put in there again and again. We love the businesses that we have. We want to keep making sure that they are thriving in the community and they have a place to expand. That's a terrific strategy, doing retain first before attract. And then it's also incredibly important, of course, as you all know, to be thinking about your partners. And partners, yes, we're talking about the city and McKed and the county and the state and other potential funders, but also local businesses as well there. So the goals of the plan are to do those 3 things. Next slide, please. The kind of guiding principles, again, to kind of reiterate some of the foundational pieces of this is around partnership, it's around public benefit, and around stewardship of your properties. So when we get into some of the properties, we'll talk about a disposition strategy, which you want to be really thoughtful about as quasi-public agency. Every time you dispose of property, it's really hard to get it back. But if it's not completely aligned with your strategy, maybe there's an opportunity there to work with a close partner to achieve those goals, your goals and your partner's goals. So again, a little bit of background there. Slide, please. A couple slides here around implementation. There's usually a step before the step, right? So there's development planning for a site and there's pre-development planning. So one of the things that you do before you are starting to draw the pictures around the infrastructure, you need to be thinking about that funding plan. You need to be thinking about some of those other due diligence pieces to make sure that when you get into that engineering piece, that it's all aligned, right? So we're trying to sequence together a number of these incremental actions across the different sites, and that's something you'll see in the action plans that are set up in near term, midterm, and long term here. A couple other things here in this slide that I want to call out. Branding, marketing, wayfinding, and signage is something that kind of emerges. It's not kind of its own standalone piece within each of the properties, but I think that you have this Cascade Locks brand that is emergent, and making sure, especially when you have properties like the Recreation Point property that's over there somewhere and people are coming downtown, people know how to navigate where they are and then really recognize this Cascade Locks brand as something that's distinct here in this part of the gorge. So something else there. Next slide, please. And then thinking about transformative investments. So the ports have terrific opportunities to do things like thinking about underdeveloped or undeveloped properties in the downtown and taking them acquiring them and through a public-private partnership, developing them into something new, something that is really hard for a private market to do, where there might not be a comparable and might not be tested. And a bank might say, well, it's a great idea. You want to put a restaurant here, but we can't finance that kind of thing. You're in that special position there. So we were looking for some of these opportunities where you've identified priorities for investment and try to think about what those strategic pieces are. Next slide, please. So the next series of slides, and really kind of the bulk of this presentation and really discussion this evening, we're going to focus in on the 5 different property areas where the port has property and where you can be thinking about acquiring property. I was really appreciated the conversation that we had in September. The last time I was out here, there was a really robust discussion around port priorities as it relates to specific properties, and we took all of that information and put that into the action plan. So thank you for that. And I'd like to say that this is, of course, your table, an opportunity for discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of these property areas and touch on just a few different actions for each of them. And then please interrupt and jump in with any questions. I do that. Matt and Darren and others are here too that have more specialized knowledge around infrastructure and around past investments. So that they're here and available to talk about some of those things. So the 5 areas here, with a few areas here, we have Recreation Point, of course, in the northeast corner of Cascade Locks. Underneath there is what we're calling the light industrial area, where I understand you've been studying the possibility of a campground and other industrial development. Marine Park, of course. The East Gateway is a triangle parcel next to the fire station there on Wanapa. And then there's also the hillside residential area. One area that we also took a look at and did some research on is within the Main Street downtown area. And we can talk about potential development in there as well. Next slide, please. And next slide, actually, let's get right into it. Okay. Recreation Point. So Recreation Point, really appreciated the conversation that we had in September, where and through some of our work with the engineers that we're working with and with Darren, really understand that to do substantial development, a Recreation Point would take substantial investment. And it seemed that there was a consensus understanding that something like that would be long off. It does look like the recreation investments that you've already placed there are paying off. We do know of friends actually that have come through Cascade Locks with their kids on mountain bikes and have used the trail there before. So in terms of priority of development, I think we are recommending that it continues to make sense to place more outdoor recreation investments there, especially as and concurrent with the planned campground in the adjacent site. Again, ensuring that you have wayfinding branding so people know how to go there. It is a little bit tucked. It's kind of tucked back there, right? So making sure that people are aware of it. It doesn't really, it's kind of hard to see from the highway, that sort of thing. So next slide, please. So this is the kind of action plan you can see on each of the properties where we're breaking up the actions in a couple of different ways. One of them is kind of in a temporal buckets right here. So near term, midterm, long term. You'll see some icons there that are more thoroughly described within the plan. Those are icons to signify kind of low-hanging fruit or things that are going to take more substantial investment or capacity from a staff standpoint. You'll see that we do also have some icons around some dollar signs there to help you kind of think through how much of an investment there is from a resource and capacity standpoint. But this is really the meat of the plan here, where we're talking about, again, each of these incremental actions that would happen on each of the sites. With Recreation Point, we are recommending to continue to develop those outdoor recreation amenities in alignment with and in parallel kind of with the campground that you're planning there. That makes a lot of sense. People are going to camp, they're going to want to look for a place to go for a hike, to go back, to take their kayak down to the water, things like that. So we've charted that out over time there. Any questions on this one or any discussion, anything that anyone would like to add?
Matt, if I could add to the commission, just from an infrastructure standpoint, this is one of the more expensive sites to fully develop. So I think Eco Northwest plan of doing small projects that are non-infrastructure intensive is really a smart idea. And then if hospitality should grow, or maybe the campground might really take off and expand, this is maybe an area where that expansion or hospitality type development could take place. But in the short term, looking at projects that really don't require extensive utilities or infrastructure is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, we're thinking some docks or something to enhance the recreational aspect of the water.
Yeah.
You know,
Trail.
kayaking,
Yeah, exactly.
better trail access to the water, first of all, and then some docks or something to make the kayaking and other type of water sports.
But
You're like one spot that we call hole 2, or even part of Government Cove where that can be done. But
Yeah.
probably hole better because it gets deeper faster than on occasion Government Cove, like lately the water's been down real low and it's like mud way
Yeah.
out. So but hole 2 has a tendency to drop off faster, and it would be a great spot to put in some docks and better access, maybe hopefully down the road, as you said, once we get the campground in, we'll be able to spark some interest in that 18 acres of company that owns the Best Westerns, and if they were interested in putting in some type of recreational development there and extend some of that infrastructure for us, then that might be viable. But getting dry camping or some sort of thing, as you said, on this site might be possible around the turnaround area.
I just wanted to make sure everybody makes a mental note of these action matrices as we go through, because we'll be using these sheets specifically as a planning tool for the executive director work plan this year for the immediate tasks that we're going to be doing in this fiscal year. And we're going to be referring to these matrices as we go through the budget planning process. So these are really those roadmap tools that you guys were requesting at the beginning of this. And this is actually what all of those agencies that we're going to be partnering with. This is just, I just love the way that they did these matrices, and we're going to be using these over and over and over again. Just today, we met with Chuck Hinman and talked about the campground program and the plans for the campground, and just to inform him. Oh, he manages the real estate portfolio of the family that owns that parcel that's adjacent to the campground.
Yes,
Yeah, so he was excited to hear about the plans and appreciative that we were sharing that with them. So
I was impressed. I spent several hours going through this today, and it's like, as you said, wading through and impressed by the thoroughness of the planning and of all of the property sites and that sort of thing. And then it's like I got done going through this presentation part, and I saw all the deep dive on the after, and said, oh man, okay.
it's a tremendous amount of work. So
Yeah, so pretty impressive. Yeah.
Well, that's the easy one.
Was there a comment line? Maybe not. Okay.
Can I add?
Yes, please, absolutely.
The other thing, piggybacking on what Darren said, was sort of the more intense the use goes, the more issues there's going to be. And I think we learned a lot from like on the Herman Creek Cove side. The historic use of this area has created some stuff in the muck and everything.
Yeah.
It's got to be really careful. So
yeah.
it'll require a lot of long-term planning and a lot of studies and investigation. And just the ownership history is weird because it used to be private land before it was all inundated. And so like where the state boundary is and private land is a little bit squishy too. So there's just a lot to keep in mind the more you want to like parcel it up or make it more of an intensive use.
Do you want to mention just why we're here?
Yeah, the past
we're working
is-
with Dan on the.
From straight to Step Cannon, we did a lot of really cool drawings. But none of the preliminary part that's increment, that's really instrumental in making this, being able to pull these things off and we got folders and folders of really cool drawings.
Yeah.
We'd love to do, but no way to really get there.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We are recommending this incremental approach, and I think that there's a lot of interim uses building up to a more substantial use. To use a housing development analogy, this is really your phase 3 site that you build to. And so in a housing, if you have a massive housing site, as you see in kind of larger metro areas, they might start with townhomes and it proves a concept. And then they can move to kind of mid-rise, and that proves a concept. And then it's the tower that happens last, that phase 3, where the profit is higher, it's a much more complex deal, but you can't start with the tower, you have to kind of work your way there. So as the port is, and this is about kind of sequencing different actions, not just on sites, but among the different sites. So as you move the campground forward and you get more industrial development down the street, and it becomes recognized as more of a district, and there's more property values are going up. And you're doing these studies concurrently, all those while those things are happening. It's at that point the hotelier might start looking at that and say, oh, this is a possibility, and where you're really setting yourself up for success for a more substantial project here on this site. So
yeah, I think to kind of like piggyback on what Brad's saying, I think I'm with you, like any sort of development here is far, far, far down the line. I think the only thing that feels applicable in the short or the near term would be those docks or those piers.
Yeah.
Just because if we do have that campground, obviously we already have easy climb there. Hiking is incredibly easy to get to, but we do want also bring people out on the water. So
for sure,
it feels like those would need to go hand in hand. But all the rest of it is, going to be a challenge and financially a challenge and all that. So yeah, it feels like far, far away.
Cool though, like just placing some signs people can follow out in the water to like have historical markers and stuff out on the water. Other towns have done it.
Yeah.
It could perhaps become overflow for the campground, peak times, things like that. Those kind of creative interim usage that can be terrific in your midterm.
The only thing I would add is, depending upon what that intervening property owner does, may affect the time frame on development of this. If they wish to move ahead with some type of hospitality type of project, the port may consider what would be your intensive use, and at least kind of have an idea or a master plan. Because if they could come in and assist with extending the infrastructure and the roadways through their property to get to the ports, it may change how quickly that the port decides to develop this as well.
And that was really a lot of the function of the discussion today, was sort of reigniting that relationship with them, letting them understand how our direction had changed to the things that we were looking at. And I wouldn't say it was a shock, but he was definitely surprised. He asked some, very specific questions. So we're no longer doing this, so we're no longer doing that. So that does sort of change what their vision is for that property. But I think if we stay aligned and have these conversations, they were really excited about what we were doing, but it sort of opens up to them a whole different set of opportunities. And you start talking commercial, and those pieces of property become even more valuable. So they'll likely need some help with the rezoning piece of it. We can be there to be a partner in that. So all through this, the closer we work with those property owners, and they have a better sense of what we're doing, the better off we'll be in the long run. Same with the Hoykers. It's the same thing with the Hoyker property. And they're aware of these developments and the things that we're doing, and he's certainly on board and would like to take advantage of some sort of recreational business down there, whatever it is. But we're definitely the leaders on that. SDS and Hoykers will follow.
Perfect. With that, let's move.
Matt, can I just ask a quick question? When you showed the dollar signs on the resources and capacities, is there a general idea of what, just to show the difference, or is there like an actual assumed dollar amount?
Two is more than one.
It is a order of magnitude type difference. It's not kind of directly linked saying, one is $500,000 or something like that there, but it's just kind of trying to show that order of magnitude as you kind of think through some of those steps of, especially as Genevieve talks about, these actions are going to be kind of brought together when you're doing annual work plans and thinking about budgeting. It's just, okay, we got a couple more expensive ones coming up in the midterm. Let's think about what that might look like. Yeah, we haven't kind of tagged it to exact dollar amounts.
Okay, that's kind of what I expected, but just want to make sure that like in the budget process, we're looking at these different things, understanding that while it would be great to do all of these things, it's likely not going to be feasible. And so understanding that, hey, we need to make sure that as we look at the different things, we kind of get a better understanding of, okay, financially, what does that mean? Capacity wise for our staff, what does that mean to make sure we match those all up together? So.
Yeah, great point.
And really is the roadmap that leads us to the next steps, right? Once we get to that, once we start moving through some of these and we get to one of those $2 or $3 ones, you know, that's where the commission goes, yeah, no, we're still interested. What does it mean? Go get some quotes, go find out how much it's going to cost, how much planning and is going to need to be done, what sort of permits are going to need to be pulled. We could have done that for this entire study, but it would have taken us a year and a half to complete it. And by the time we did it, it would be out of date. So again, sort of that overarching 1,000-foot view, but does sort of show us in the future, like, hey, you got a we'll call it $3 problem. You got a $3 problem that's a little ways out. So be aware of that one. And when we get to that $3 problem, know that it's not one that gets solved in one meeting or probably 2 meetings. It's probably bringing in outside resources, setting money aside, finding a grant for it, et cetera.
Take a lesson from the Interstate Bridge.
Well, I don't know if we want to. Not sure we would.
Perfect. With that, let's go to the next slide. The next site, yeah. So this is the East Gateway site. So this is a triangular property on Wanapa, just east of where we are here, undeveloped.
45.
We did do a little bit of feasibility work here, thinking about horizontal mixed use, so the commercial adjacent to residential. We kind of played around with some boxes there and thought about some of the potential economics there. I think one of the challenges with this site is it's triangles don't like to play well with boxes that are buildings, but there's plenty of space there to do something. You'll just have to make sure that you've got a creative architect there. So we did take a look at the primary thrust here at this site was looking at working with a developer to get some commercial development and perhaps some housing on the site. We did also, I know there's potentially a conversation with the city with kind of aging buildings that the city owns. And so this could be a site for a co-location with a port in the city. So put that in there as an exploration action. But again, what you'll see, next slide, please. What you'll start to see here in the action matrix is doing some of those increment steps there of figuring out the mix, developing some design concepts, maybe kind of testing that conversation with the city on the site. But I think this is the shape aside. I think this is a really terrific site in a lot of ways and could really anchor the east side of Wanapa coming into the Cascade Locks downtown area. So yeah, I think Jeremiah referred to it as the front door coming in from the east there.
It also seems to be the sort of the most linear sort of one step follows the next from beginning of project to end of project.
Yeah.
As you see it move through the dollar signs as well as the midterm and long-term goals. I don't know where that means for prioritizing, but the path from beginning to end certainly is clearer than, say, Recreation Point or some of the other properties that we have.
Right. I think that's right. I think that's definitely right. And I think it's partially aligning with market cycles and finding the right tenants for it as well. I think if you have some commercial businesses that are looking to expand in the gorge, this could be a good spot for them. So with the comment about market cycles, we're in an uncertain market cycle time. Lots to talk about directionally where the market's going to go. But one thing I can say is that within uncertain economic times, that's a terrific time to do planning for new development. It's a terrific time to be thinking about what happens because markets do go up and down. And if it's down now, it will come up at some point. So next slide, please.
We can jump into the conversation for me personally, I think that this after the campground is I feel like this is where we should probably put a lot of focus. We talked a lot about um the housing issue that we have. We've talked a lot about the 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 business establishment problems that we have. If anyone in this room wanted to start a business downtown or anywhere in Cascade Locks, there's no storefronts. So having this as an opportunity and have it be mixed use, to me, would be a huge win for the entire community. Like there's a lot of just, regardless of how the market is, there's a lot of staples and staple businesses that we don't have in town. That a building here, even with a mixed use and, and residential units above, could incredibly benefit the entire town. Like, we don't have a bank, we don't have a bookstore, we don't have, and I've talked about this a lot. But there's things that, regardless of how the market is up or down, could be anchor businesses that can live in a building here. So for me personally, I think that this is something, again, after the campground, that I see as an incredibly important addition to our town that we could start sinking our teeth into.
Yeah, most of our things that I feel like we've had good success at are leveraging our strong point, which is we have property that we can offer terms, we can offer great prices, because we don't necessarily, it's not about the dollar that we're gonna make on it. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to go out figure out the type of development that we want and use that property as leverage to get the type of development we want, and go out for an RFP or an RFDI on the property, and hopefully get investors that are interested. And then we've got a fairly, other than our initial investment, a little bit of a little bit of preparatory work. It keeps us moving forward on our primary project, which is the campground, but also has us moving forward on its own track. So,
And me as the executive director and having a work plan, I certainly appreciate hearing you prioritizing that in your head, because that prioritization is going to be very important here. Shortly, we'll have all of these properties, but we will then begin asking the commission, okay, which order do we put these in for me and staff to tackle? So
Yeah.
I'll try not to be
how big of a bite can they make at one time on
right.
5 different things?
Here comes the fun police.
I'll try not to be the wet blanket all the time. But just the importance. Yeah, it is. The importance of the long-term stuff. So like, when I think it's in your main report, but like when I look at this, the first thing I see is the state highway going on the front edge, right? And that just screams like, okay, can't just do anything you want with it. It's going to be really determined by the access that's allowed, and you don't really have any options behind it. So a lot of long-term planning, coordination with ODOT, that kind of stuff, to really understand what pieces can,
But anything along the Wanapa would require coordination with.
Right, but this is such a long frontage. It's like, hopefully that means there's options, but because of the shape, also is kind of weird.
Right.
It's also very close to the off ramp and then the frontage road going under I-84. And I think there will be some access control issues with ODOT and how far away from 84 they're going to want to see an access. This site seems to me to be really ideal for the port to try to find a developer to pair up with or partner up with, rather than just investors. A developer that's familiar with the mixed use type development and such, and maybe already has the housing demand filled.
And so, yeah, terrific points all around. And I guess one thing that I can add here, kind of building on some of these points, is reduce developer risk. So all the things that you're talking about now, do them before you have that developer in hand. Go have that conversation with ODOT and talk with them about, is this a right in, right out only kind of situation? Because then that's going to pose a problem. As much as you can have a good idea about what can happen there with all of those regulatory constraints before you have a developer, and you can ease that process and reduce that developer risk. The larger pool of developers that you'll get, you'll say, oh, okay, I'll take a swing at this. And more likely that you're going to be able to have success, because they're not going to have to do that right at the edge when they're at work.
getting that due diligence done ahead of time, understanding what infrastructure might need to be extended, and even doing some conceptual plans similar to what Matt has already done, showing, some pad layouts, some parking, so that a developer can easily realize, what the potential is here
Yeah.
and put a number to it.
I did like the work that you did on this, where you showed the different mixed uses and the constraints and the parking issues and being adjacent to the fire hall as far as sound, et cetera. So that really helped me to understand, okay, yeah, there's some definite, disadvantages to, as you said, the shape of the property and the different types of uses and the cost of each of those depending on separation. They had a big issue with that down in Wood Village, next to Wood Village, Fairview.
Fairview.
When they did Fairview, they built all these buildings and then they had to go back and retrofit a bunch of them because they didn't have adequate fire separation and sprinklers,
Oh,
and things
wow.
like that in some of the buildings. And it was a big train wreck when they figured out that they'd been built and were not up to code.
Oh, geez.
So,
At least the fire station good.
yes, exactly.
But I think,
Well-
a good point. That's why we really went towards horizontal mixed use, where you're not having uses stacked on top of each other. That increases complexity and increases cost, and there's still potential to use the space there. I will note, one of the first actions in the near term is develop design concepts. We're not architects. We do kind of play around the blocks, but you'll need an architect to really kind of tell you what can fit on that property. We do that so that we can understand kind of the economics of the size of each of those floor plates. But
But you made it simple enough I could wrap my brain around it.
we have to do that. Yeah, exactly. How is this gonna fit?
But one of the other things that
Working.
this site will probably entail will be some type of sound wall or barrier between it and the residential properties to the north. I'm guessing that the folks living there on those larger lots aren't going to want to see a large commercial development or the noise associated with it as well. So not just the noise from the fire station, but possibly how to accommodate those neighbors to the north.
Built in a nightclub there. Yeah.
Right. To the north. Oh, okay, I got it. So Darren, you're talking about the houses that are already there.
Yes, exactly. And I know this is zoned properly, but even though it's zoned, doesn't necessarily mean you won't hear neighborhood complaints, as you're well aware.
Well, we never did anything because there were hurdles and nothing would ever get done.
Let's move forward to the next site, which I think is slide 15. Yeah, so Marine Park, here we'll take a look at Marine Park. Terrific amenity for the community. They're having access to the water and some of the event space there. I recall, I think it was our first meeting last summer. There were folks getting ready for, I think, a wedding down in that area. So really a special location for the community. We're not recommending anything too substantial here, but to continue to build on that success as a community amenity there. So thinking about some incremental investments that enhance the visitor experience, maybe thinking about doing a study around the possibility of short-term rental for the log tenders houses, or kind of building that into the event rental business line that you already have. We did take a kind of a quick look at office, and that's kind of a difficult play to think about, kind of like going to a pure office. There's such a small market there, so we think that's not the best option there. But a lot of things that I think you already know as well in terms of access kind of underneath the train, eventually thinking about that in the midterm and the long term there. So but it's a good thing, and so keep looking at those actions around the edges to continue to enhance it.
And I think one of the things that we didn't dig into hard on in Marine Park, and likely will, maybe as commission, you guys will dig into and add to this piece. It's still a bit of a question mark, and we're due for an update from American Cruise Lines on where we are exactly with that dock. But as Albert said, and I think maybe you all said at some point in time, definitely opportunities with that dock coming in that we'll want to take advantage of, whether that's some sort of a market there. I know Carrie's had thoughts about a potential museum. It was a different word than a museum, cultural center, museum, cultural center,
So,
visitor center. So I think that there's some opportunities that didn't necessarily get explored, particularly in this one, that are a little bit more centered around the future of that dock. And when and if it arrives. So I think that's something we'll probably tackle a little bit as that project does or doesn't move forward.
I know we got some really cool concept drawings of 3 different designs for the museum that
Yeah,
we did years ago.
all glass.
Very cool.
And drawings of everything.
Okay.
oh, that sounds scary with all the trees and.
Yeah, exactly.
All glass and no parking.
Move ahead to the next site here, which is slide 18, full site residential. Yeah. So a different thing here, a different site. So hillside residential. This is, of course, is the property that's zone residential up there to the south of town, and we're recommending a different direction here, which is eventually a disposition of this property. So eventually selling this property to someone else for housing development. I understand this has been a conversation that your commission has had for some time there. What we've tried to add here into the action matrix is the strategic steps to get there. And again, much like the East Gateway site, as much as you can reduce developer risk before you get to this position, you're more likely to have a successful development overall. Along with this position, there's a number of different ways to get rid of a property and to turn it into something else. I think here it sounds like those conversations have gone forward around workforce housing or some kind of housing for the community. And so strongly recommending that you think about a strategy, putting together a development agreement or a public-private partnership with I don't know if it's you could do a study around what kind of housing is appropriate and what you want to target with the city and with others, whether it's affordable housing or workforce housing or market rate housing, a combination of, but figuring out.
I know in North Portland, they did some developments that were a combination of,
Yeah.
they had some workforce housing,
Yep.
they had some single family homes that were smaller, entry level, USDA farm loan eligible because we're in a USDA area. To make it affordable housing and also have mixed types of housing, but there again, go out for an RFD on it and get for an RFP and get somebody interested in it, where we're able to offer terms and
Yeah.
pricing that makes it pencil out for them and also achieve what we want in our community as far as more housing.
Yeah, I think that's right, Commissioner. Yeah. And so with that development agreement, making sure that the developer is held to account to have certain outcomes on that site. So and there can be recourse in those agreements as well going forward. A couple other things to touch on with this site. Just kind of in our quick look, we didn't quite know kind of where all of the developable land was. I understand that there was kind of there's the landslide land and part of that. So again, some of that due diligence, some of that kind of creating certainty, going out and testing and really kind of figuring out where lots might go, where you can build and where you can't build. There's some things that are going to move that site forward as you start thinking about housing development.
And this plan here probably does a really good job with aligning us with some of the opportunities through Business Oregon and some of the grants that they have. The solve the housing issue is certainly a thing they're throwing money at,
Yeah.
and very few people have an answer to it. Here in Little Cascade Locks, we happen to have an answer. So there is an opportunity for us to get some money to do some of that initial studies on there, maybe even some earthwork, getting, what'd you say, protect the developer, some, whatever it was, something before the developer.
Lowering the risk of the.
Reduce the risk of the developer.
Reduce-
So I think some of the reduced developer risk, I think there's some opportunities through some of those grants for us to do a lot of that. And then I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing to think about, because of all the sites, when I look at this, like the port's actual authority to do residential versus other things. That's one where we have to be very deliberate and make sure we've got the statutory authority. But, and Jeremiah had talked about this over the months, that there are tools that we can use with other entities like the city or the county, where you can form either new entities or new agreements where you basically combine your powers. So even if it's not something the port can do on its own, it's something you can definitely do hand in hand with another governmental entity. And the range of options there are huge, from small project to like form an economic development agency, anything in between, you can do a lot. And so we can be really creative about that if we can find the right partners.
And with that, you can also put the actions on the partner as well and say, hey, we have the property, we're not housing developers, you city or you other agency, you all take the lead on that and we'll kind of help support. So in that way, the port can go to its primary lane around economic development, focus on commercial and industrial.
Still need to get you that name of our family friend who does this for a living, developing residential lower income housing
Yeah.
in Oregon.
And Jeremiah is right on the grant funding side. There is some really, really interesting grants. Like there is a housing infrastructure fund push right now that pushes for the preliminary infrastructure to get, again, to reduce that developer funding and get the water, sewer, electrical things sort of planned and figured out ahead of the RFDI effort. So there's some opportunities there. The state, workforce housing is the highest priority in the state. It's highest priority, I think, in the SEDS document next to the Hood River Bridge Replacement Project. So there's a lot of support for an ask in that realm. Even though it might not be, we don't want to be a landlord, but we do have residential land and there certainly are other agencies who might be interested in partnering and developing it.
Do we not want to be a landlord? Is that an opportunity?
We can't really be a landlord.
Tommy.
There's like an asset.
Yeah.
Like people's assets.
It's a Tommy question.
Yeah, it depends on how it's structured. I would say that in the residential context, it's harder than it is in the commercial context, right?
Yeah.
So there's a line somewhere where we'd have to be really careful, and even then, it's not the brightest line.
If it is something that this commission wanted to explore, it's something we certainly could and really understand within ORS 777 what is available to us. There are other ports that are absolutely doing it. Port of Boardman right now has created workforce housing. They act as the landlords. It is possible. It is fuzzy. It could present other issues. It also may sort of pull us away from what our actual mission is to have 27 different houses up there that are like, well, call Parker.
Yeah.
Right. So it could be a difficult business for us to manage. But if we want to understand that, it's definitely something that Tommy could come in and explain to us.
I think to your point earlier, townhomes and 100% of the tower, there's those small residential areas that are already, they're already a little marked out, right? Like,
Yeah.
that would
The
be-
little lots.
If we were to do anything here,
Those
that would be
three little
necessary
lots,
to
right?
start and test.
Start with those three parcels.
Both the smaller parcels kind of adjacent to the downtown area, and then also in the little kind of leg there in the southeast corner, there's also the small plots that are already developed there as well. So I can't recall if there were some water challenges there. Darren might know with the water tank there, but there is a comparable one. Again, real estate always wants to look next door and copy what's next door. So
What's the acreage of this right here? I know some of it's not.
So this one is
Was it 20?
there, and the property right behind it is ours as well. There's another little square that's just to the west of it that's also ours. Total, I think we're looking at today, 38. It's like 18 and 20.
Yeah.
How much of that is actual buildable because of the landslide piece is debatable, but I think it's 38 total.
And with regards to the landslide piece, I think that it would be very wise for the port to pursue a geotechnical and slope stability study. However, just my opinion is that the landslide potential is extremely low on this piece of property. We constructed a 480,000 gallon water reservoir with relatively little soil improvement based upon a geotechnical study. The landslide areas are showing, very old landslide deposits, and the construction of a residential subdivision really has very little impact. That the slope is not extremely steep like some of the West Hills of Portland or other landslide prone areas. And I guess I wouldn't my opinion would be I wouldn't be super worried about landslides taking this property out of play. I think the bigger issue is there's roughly half the property is at or above the existing water reservoir. And so to provide water service to that development is going to require a booster pump system and such. I mean, all the lower portions still going to require main line extensions and sewer and everything else, but that southerly portion is all out or above the tank and will require a booster pump.
So is that lift station that is adjacent, is just under the overpass there, just past it basically, they put it in when they, put in the lots for, Harmony Heaven, which is the property that's developed adjacent to that. Does that not have enough capacity to lift,
So that is a booster pump station, and it actually was able to be deactivated when this new tank went in. That prior to that tank going in, when Harmony Heaven was developed, there was lack of pressure, especially due to the fact that all the other city water reservoirs were central or at the east end of town. And so by the time the water came clear through the city system to this area, it did not have adequate pressure, and that was the reason for the booster pump station there. But again, when we put in the new tank and extended the main line, we basically were able to take that booster pump station offline.
gotcha, okay. Yeah, I gotta believe they probably got tons of water pressure right there, right next to it, several thousand gallons of tank there.
Well, remember that pressure is always just based upon elevation. But what was killing this area before was the fact that the water had to flow through thousands of feet of 6 inch and 4 inch water main. And so, as any significant flow of water occurred, the friction loss of the water moving through the pipes basically ate into that pressure. And that's what really required the booster pump. But now having a tank out here, and we also have a 12-inch main connecting the reservoirs, the friction loss has been basically reduced to nothing, and the tank elevation matches the tank elevation of the other city tanks.
Good, thank you.
Very cool.
Terrific. With that, let's go to the next site area. So that's slide 1, which is the downtown here. And here we took a look at some of the vacant or underutilized properties there, and put together a series of actions to help the port continue actually do I think what you've done in the past of thinking about some of those kind of, as they're called, missing teeth in a downtown area,
Right.
and picking them up and redeveloping them as you're able there. So you see things in the actions like continuing to engage with some property owners there. This can always be a challenge in every size community, and smaller communities of kind of engaging and thinking about what a transaction might look like there. But that's where we have that one going, and then moving some of those properties towards redevelopment. With that one, let's go to slide 22. Which is on the light industrial property. And so we understand that you're doing a more comprehensive campground study on this site. And so we did kind of a light touch on that part here with the thought that part of this property would develop into that campground. I think that's very exciting for the community. Another part of it would turn into light industrial as it is zoned. And so we've put together a few actions here to think about some of the regulatory hurdles that you'd have to jump through, especially to take industrial and to turn it into a campground. And so some of those you're going to want to tackle head on here in near term. And then the retaining businesses piece here I think is really important. I use the word retain, kind of a loose term, to be retained within the gorge. Maybe there's some companies that are in Hood River or in Benjamin or kind of even around that are looking to expand and need other spot. I understand Freem, that's why Freem came here. They were in Hood River and they had an opportunity to come here. So that light industrial parcel is a real opportunity for expansion. I think you've got again a terrific template there in the work that you've already done with Freem and the other building across the street from that one.
I'd like to include that little triangle piece that's just south of there at some point as well. And see that, I mean, my dream for that is to have like a storage unit facility, because our town really needs one there.
That's right.
I know that's port owned property as well.
It's not really one that we dug into on, yeah, this corner right here. That's a port-owned property. It's not really one that we dug into a whole lot in this particular study, but it's certainly one that we can look at. I don't know that we have a lot of information about it. Have we ever in your 10 years, have they ever talked about that?
No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
So yes, let's put that as something to investigate.
I know that often.
I don't
we
even know
see
if it's a
this particular drawing, but
Is
this little notch, is that on the bottom left of it?
Say
Where the
again?
parking lot of that?
Yeah, that parking lot is in a separate lot. We'll need to combine that when we.
Yeah,
when we
it'll
do
be
the-
part of it.
It'll be part of the.
Okay. So every time you see the drawing, it has the little cutout.
Yeah.
That is the official,
profile,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
This site and the adjacent site and the properties that Russ talking about, and also the adjacent recreation point site are substantial enough. You're really creating its own thing there. You're creating a new, use the term district or a different part of town. And it's a part of town, I think, that visitors aren't, there's a few visitors now going to the mountain bike trail, but as you start to develop it, it does need its own branding. It does need its own kind of wayfinding, because I think folks that are coming into town right now wouldn't kind of recognize that at much of a place. So they'll come into downtown, understand downtown, get downtown Marine Park. But when we talk about wayfinding and branding of Cascade Locks, we've got a heavy finger pointing at these properties in particular, so that when folks are like, oh, I'll see you in Cascade Locks, and their buddy shows up at Thunder Island Brewing, and the other person is, ready to go fishing here, that they're meeting up to the right spot there.
Yeah.
With that, let's go to slide 25. And so slide 25, this is just a high level overview of a number of the different key recommendations, key actions across each of the different near term, midterm, and long term. And so again, within the investment plan itself, there's much more detail into each of these actions, but we wanted to show this matrix to demonstrate how these things are flowing together across the different sites. Next slide, please. A few more points here, and I think these are things that I have kind of peppered into the conversation this evening. So again, talking about branding, wayfinding, especially how important that is for the properties to the east part of town. Expanding and developing strong partnerships, continuing to look for those partnerships with whether it's a residential housing developer or the hillside site or the city with some regulatory changes that you're going to need around the campground site. That sort of thing. Let's go to slide 28. Also within the investment strategy, we've started to talk a little bit about capacity and resources. I can't thank Genevieve enough for all of the list of grants and other targeting funding sources that she sent over to us that we've included there. There are a number of different opportunities, whether it's from the state or from other agencies, federal agencies as well. That you want to be looking at for each of these parcels going forward. So we try to always put together little frameworks to help folks think about how either kind of putting different funding opportunities together. So here we're talking about what do you have on hand, how do you match that with funding opportunities that might be accessible, kind of nearby opportunities or opportunities that the port can exercise, such as bonding, and then external funding opportunities which you have to go and compete and bring in. There. So just trying to demonstrate how those pieces might fit together. The last slide here. Just talking about some final steps here. So understand that this investment plan is, we're hoping that this is going to be a really useful tool for you all as we get into your work plans and your budgeting cycles here. So just a few kind of, as we walk out the door type recommendations. One that I do want to call out here is developing that funding strategy. And thinking about accessible funding, whether it's bonds or your investment fund here. There are some substantial investment opportunities in the near and midterms. So definitely recommend moving that one forward. And that's the kind of final one that I wanted to kind of put together there. We'd be happy to answer any other questions about whether it's the sites or the roadmap itself. But thank you again for this opportunity with you all. It's been terrific with your staff.
Great.
Love coming out to the gorge, even if it's a windy drive. Usually get a good beer afterwards. So, appreciate
Exactly.
that opportunity, yeah.
Where do you get your beer at?
You're on the spot.
Buddies.
I'll just make a little just note so that you all know kind of what comes next on the grant side of this effort. So we did receive a grant from the Business Oregon from the Port Planning and Marketing Fund that called out as a deliverable everything that Eco Northwest worked on in this document and all of those other documents that you saw that they prepared along the way, but also a couple of other deliverables. One of those included an assessment of the wastewater treatment plant for Freem's future additional brewing capacity. So at the time that we applied for the grant, that was a really high question of, okay, well, we really need to find out what we need at the water treatment. Well, the city and Freem have worked that out on their own. So that wasn't part of the Eco Northwest project, but it will be included in the report that we give to Business Oregon because it is a deliverable. Another one was the campground study. So like Matt said, we sort of kept that, deep dive on the campground out of Eco Northwest's effort because Campground Consulting Group was going very, very deep dive and working on that. So some of the, actually all of the information in Campground Consulting Group's marketing and feasibility study will be delivered to Business Oregon along with Eco Northwest study and sort of a report from us on that wastewater treatment plant results so that the grant will get everything that they are funding. It'll just come in sort of 3 different pieces. So just wanted you guys to know that.
We'll put a nice blanket up.
Yeah, we'll put a nice blanket over it and as soon as that grant closes and is approved by them, we are immediately eligible to apply again. So the Port Planning and Marketing Fund is a really, really amazing program for ports. And Val is our rep at Business Oregon, and she helps us start those. So please put your thinking caps on as we're going through the process of the next planning effort that we have. As soon as we close this grant with them, we're able to apply in the next fiscal year for another planning grant. So
If you look at the very end of the packet, where we have these cut sheets here. So part of my intention is to take these cut sheets and to put them to get them printed and put into some sort of marketing material that we can have on hand to provide to developers. So I'll certainly get plenty of copies of those. We'll have them available at the port, but also for you guys to have in hand as well as you're networking and meeting folks that potentially have interest in Cascade Locks or that you want to have interest in Cascade Locks. So I certainly appreciate how much we've learned about our properties from Eco Northwest and these that we've sat through, because I feel like I can speak more educatedly about each and every one of them, just having done that myself. But we will put together, and it's going to be a nice handout. It's going to be something that really reaches out to developers, and not just these cut sheets, a little bit about the town, the opportunities that exist here, the existing businesses that exist here, what our demographics look like, what opportunities exist in which industries, something that a developer can open up and go, maybe I'm missing the mark by not investing in Cascade Locks. So I'll certainly have copies of those to hit the road with, but commissioners as well, because I know you guys stumble across some interesting folks as well that show interest in Cascade Locks. So that'll be another takeaway that we need
to have something to make on television.
It's another takeaway that we've needed for a long time. I have developers at least once or twice a month stop by and they're like, well, what can you show me? And it's like, well, what do you want to see? And it's like, well, what do you got? And it's like, well, let's go for a drive. I'll take you on a tour.
Here, read this on the way.
yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. And tell Caitlin, thank you very much for all of her work.
Yes.
She did a great job.
And this is also an opportunity if you guys have any questions for Matt or Darren. Tommy's sticking around, but Matt or Darren, they charge me by the 15-minute increment. So if we can cut them loose,
for like 3 more minutes.
if they can cut them loose, they'd be happy to go. I think Matt's about to start his vacation. This is the last thing he does before he goes on vacation.
Awesome. Where are you going?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Whoa. I think.
I won't make you, you know, stick around either. I won't make you brave that way.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
See you guys.
very much.
All righty. Commissioner comments of the reports. Well, let's. I'm moving right along.
I'm good too.
Okay, good. Gary?
I know, that surprises everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I have a little news on the subcommittee side. What once was the museum, the Fort, supported museum subcommittee, is, they've recently decided to dissolve the port and city positions due to conflicts of interest. So we are downsizing to a 5 person board. So instead
The
of
museum
7
board.
person,
Oh, I see.
museum board.
Okay.
That was actually my bright idea that kind of just came out of nowhere. I'm surprised they took action on it so quickly, but I'm also
Let's get that guy.
I'm also happy that they did it. It's a very uncomfortable situation for me to, or for you or me to be unhappy with the way a vendor is handling our collection. Not that this is happening, but that I have these things, an issue with a vendor or things that I think they should be doing within their contract, or we have some sort of conflict on Thursday, and then I go to their board meeting and I sit on the board. It creates kind of, they were talking about hiring issues in there, who they're hiring, who they're not hiring. I'm sitting on the board watching these. As somebody who uses them as a vendor, it got really like, I shouldn't even be here for this. So I'm happy they cleaned it up, and I'm going to re-volunteer as a citizen. I will be staying too. It is definitely cleaner, but I was surprised they moved so quickly.
Yeah, so that was the news for that subcommittee, and then the Bridge of the God celebration. I don't really have a lot of updates there. I guess we're just kind of chugging along, looking for ideas for content during the festival. So if you guys have any ideas, please throw them our way for like speakers, activities, stuff like that we want to see during the festival. To line up an agenda, that would be great.
We have your WHAM contact. Jeremiah and I pounced on John Benton at the Rotary meeting. And so we've got your WHAM museum Model T, Model A guy. Oh, okay. So he said he could rally some Model A's to drive around town.
That'd be cool. Yeah, when I talked to them last year, they said that they would be happy to bring their a fleet of cars out as long as they could get past the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they don't make it onto the main road.
They are bone rattlers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have any other updates for BOGCC.
Okay, yeah, I also don't have anything other than, how about this weather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty wild.
It's lovely.
I saw my neighbor taking his garbage out. I was like, that is so bold. Doing it tonight. But we'll see.
And I know I'm gonna wake up to the sound of like cans and
Hands rolling down the.
Yeah, so much for, at least these trash cans do not blow over quite
So easily,
as
yeah.
the previous ones. Like
There's stuff in them, it's harder, but.
Yeah.
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 As long as people use actual garbage bags instead of loose.
Yeah, the loose stuff, yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, executive director report.
Yeah, let's go ahead and roll through it. Let's keep it kind of brief. Also, let's give a bit of a heads up on the HVAC. I don't think I've shared with any of them that happened. So
this is Jeremiah's giving you the preamble here, but that's what we'll start with. On
Pre-mumble.
that's good.
Word HVAC.
January 8th, it somewhat minimal damage, but we had a truck with a bundle of wood on the top of it lose that bundle of wood right at the pole. And it got lodged between the HVAC concrete block and the HVAC the truck just kept driving because they didn't know it was off, and damaged the HVAC unit. Driver is insured, going all through insurance, and I actually just got off the phone with that gal before I came here, and it was approved, and so we're heading down the line
That's
for
the type of
replacement.
office that happened at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the toll booth.
We
The toll
take
booth.
bundle of woodland. Where do we? Just small
It
bundle.
was like the scrap wood left over from a day's job,
Mhm.
and he just didn't quite have it secured on the front of the truck. And so it stayed in the back of the truck, but it came off the front and just created this big sweeping chunk of wood.
I just now remembered I hadn't shared that with the commission. I apologize. We had pictures of it and everything. It's really odd.
I probably don't say nobody's seen it,
Yeah.
but it is pretty, it's just
like
enough.
perfect timing to have that, do that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, but that's the curse of the toll booth. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. There's a bad guy.
Also, there wasn't like a great story to tell. Like he drove away and we chased him down, and it just he's insured and it's fine, and they're gonna do it. And
Yeah.
it's right along.
Yeah.
No drama.
No drama.
Is that why the trolls left?
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. Oh, the
I think that's
trolls. The trolls.
I try to keep my hands off the troll. That's the handful.
Are they
The
good
trolls
down
are
deep right
great.
now? Or are they-
No, they have multiple heaters. We have wall heaters in there, and then I brought up a space heater from the office, and they all love it. They
Yeah,
like
we have
that
good
heater
little
more than the
foot
overhead
heaters.
heater
Yeah.
shooting down on your face.
Yeah,
But
no,
it would be very important come summertime to have that unit run. So that's the big exciting one. Dismantled the holiday lighting displays, and happy to say this year is zero theft.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Not a single cord, anything gone, which was excellent. Usually we at least have a few cords throughout the year
Yeah.
that are taken. We had to reposition some parking blocks at the Herman Creek parking lot to protect the bank wall. The bank wall
During the
at-
flood event.
during the
Yeah.
flood event
Right.
kind of broke off a little further and took out part of the user-made footpath that goes up the trail. And we've moved those rocks to be further away, but the creek just ate a little more of that wall there. So you'll see some of that there. We serviced all of our water runoff culverts from the business park. And there was a few of them that were very, very full or close to full. Thank you, Dennis Snyder, for the reminder. We addressed a noise complaint regarding Freem 1 or Freem 2 HVAC unit and actively investigating that. We had Barry go out, and I don't have any quotes yet for that. We relocated the River Rock from Flex 1 and 2 to our storage yard. And if you all take a drive out there, the pad is done actually for the landmass project, and it's curing now. It turned out great. Looks super awesome. We've had some. No, it kind of goes into itself with a drain in the middle.
Okay.
So designed very well by Mission Construction. They did a good job.
But it'll have enough room. I haven't been out there since this, but still have room for all their benches and everything.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. And they constructed it in a manner that gives them the ability to drive on it with forklifts so they can move
Cool.
stuff on and off. We can still get lifts and whatnot in there. It turned out really great.
Nice.
Submitted our annual water usage report to Oregon Water Resources for 2025.
Cool.
And last big one, we executed the final contract for the pavilion doors. And we've commenced excavation for the pavilion concrete pad. That is about done. And as weather allows, after this hopeful snowstorm that's coming our way, we'll get the concrete down after that. And welcome to the team, Felicia, up at the toll booth.
Very cool.
That's what I got.
Read on the concrete pad, I'm just curious what.
So there at the pavilion, we have, every year we bring out an event tent, a white event tent. Every year it's a struggle to keep the grass alive underneath it. Last year we brought some sod and some soil in there and still had an issue with just overwatering. When it rains, all the water falls on the tent, lands on the grass there, makes ruts.
It's really muddy.
It's also a direct. It's
There's
also
a hard top, pavilion there or? a hard
Not
top?
quite, but in the future, it's in our plans.
We're hoping to pitch to you guys as an idea, you know, in the midterm,
Do it
but
right now.
yeah.
We'll get there when budget allows.
Yeah.
So we have designed a pad that is 19 by 39 that will fit just inside the tent space and also a walkway up to the door there. And if you go out and have a look at it, I think you'll see the vision. It will really make the place easier to sell for Janetta, just easier
easier to clean
maintain.
too.
It's clean.
Is that
Yeah.
tent gets tons and tons and tons of traffic, and then they go into the pavilion and back out and back in and back out. First thing you do is mop that whole area because it's a
'Cause
little
the
mud
mud.
pit on the inside, especially for things like the waterfall race where it's early in the season and it gets gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of really great things that'll come out of that, and that's I think it's a great plan for us, and it'll very much make that space more user friendly.
Cool, just duplicating the term pavilion had me confused, because I was like, are we adding to our current pavilion or?
No.
Hard cover.
Just
Instead of having a tent, we just put in a.
improving the rental facility
Yeah.
and usability.
Cool.
And on the events department, Nikki and Janetta are working really hard to make a big splash at the Portland Bridal Show. They've been designing their booth and their marketing materials, developed a frequently asked questions piece for a handout, which I think is a really great way to kind of shortcut to a lot of those questions that the brides have. They're also working on promoting the Locks venue at this week's Skamania County Chamber of Commerce dinner. I don't know how many of you guys are going to that, but yeah, so we're sponsoring that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You can put that down, Carrie Ann.
yeah.
Please get a ticket for Brad's wife. He'll reimburse.
You bring over here.
He was watching a movie or.
We are a higher level sponsor this year than we were last year, so a lot
Well,
more visibility.
More people came, so the
Yeah.
difference between not sponsoring and buying a whole table was, plus it was a good opportunity for us to introduce the Locks to that side.
Yeah, exactly.
When we're in Travis Simons. It's his birthday on Friday.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Perfect.
The other big thing was
I won't go too far.
the other big thing was, it's in the dark and cold of January, but Janetta's brain is in June, and she is talking to the Columbia Gorge Racing Association. We had a nice group meeting with them, talking about their plans for this summer and their requests for this summer, which Parker is wading through some of those requests. And then also just getting all of her contract language updated. So Tommy's going to get inundated with some emails to review some contract templates for this year's summer events.
CGRA, is that their property or are they using that from us?
They have sort of they have an event contract every year for their season.
Okay.
So, and it has
it's-
maps that say this
it's
is
our-
your dance space, this is our dance.
It's our
space.
property. It's our
Yeah.
property. They lease it like any other event that leases. Their lease is a little different because it's in a weird area that we don't rent out real often.
Right.
With it being the beach, but similar to, I mean, it would align with whatever anybody who wanted to do that sort of event down there. It's not a lease. It's just that they come in. We used to have an actual long-term contract with them. It's since expired and we've never renewed it. And now we've moved to every year they come in, they explain what it is what they want to do, and we go through what their events are going to be for the specific dates.
Through an event.
It used to be a little bit more like, here you go. The clubhouse they built, and if they were to ever, if the contract were ever to expire, we would take ownership of that or anything else that they left there. Any improvements that they made, contract has expired. So, but as it's sort of been traditionally, they spent the money and built that.
They did have a request to tie into our internet theirs to be able to power their security cameras in a theft prevention effort. They did have a couple of high dollar thefts last summer that they are concerned about for, being sure that their participants are protected. So that's one request that we're kind of gonna call Blue Mountain, see what we can do, gonna call Radcop, but Certainly more cameras down at the beach would be a good thing. And if we can work together to make sure that their security cameras are combined with the stern wheeler security cameras and our own security camera system, we'll get closer and closer to full coverage, which would be nice. So that was one of their questions that we're definitely looking into.
They have security cameras down there.
Yeah.
There's alarms going off.
Yeah, they have nice
It's
security
not
cameras.
tied to our internet use, I guess. They want to tie it to our internet because it's a stronger signal. or
Higher
higher
bandwidth or
bandwidth.
something. Yeah.
Um,
They have a hotspot.
I don't know that we'll ever,
Okay.
I don't know that we'll ever combine our camera systems, just because our retention laws are so much stricter than theirs. But if there's a way that we can work together, that would be better.
So Janetta's trying to wrangle with that right now, and Nikki has taken the charge of leading our safety committee, and she held.
Taking the charge. I think
Yeah.
that was part of the job description that we
Yeah.
said we would create.
Yeah, and she's did her first meeting, and so that's going back on the tracks there. So we're excited about that.
That's been needed to be done too. We're about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years behind on doing safety. I mean, Parker does it all the time, but somebody who really takes ownership of that. So I'm glad to see
Great.
that back up and running.
Yeah. And then for this year's, for the round 2 of the Port Economic Development Grants, we're still going through the finalizing of the contracts. We don't have all of the contracts done. We asked all of those grantees that received a grant amount less than their ask to submit an updated budget to reflect accurately how they will handle, getting a less amount of money than they actually asked. So we're going through that process with them right now. Some of them have been signed and they've received their notice to proceed, but not all of them. So we'll update you when everybody has their notice to proceed and those projects are moving forward.
That stated any concern about being able to complete their project
No.
with a lesser amount?
No. The one interesting one was for Main Street Cascade Locks. Since they received a $10,000 grant, right?
Yeah, she wanted 50, right?
Yeah.
She got 10.
Which puts her in the small grant category. And so McKed, Amy Beaver is the employee at McKed who's helping everybody through this, had a brilliant suggestion to have her change her budget to make it so that the amount that she's the list of project that she's funding with the grant is smaller so that she can utilize her in kind to the maximum benefit so that she can do more with the grant than what she was trying to do with the original budget. So Amy's coaching through that, and it's going well so far, but it's not complete. We'll let you know as soon as all of those contracts are.
Really excited that.
Yeah.
He was like, it was just enough to do like. the
Yeah.
one thing I really wanted to do."
Yeah. I think I mentioned this last meeting that we were working on some ads that highlights Cascade Locks as a mountain biking destination. We've placed those ads in the Visit Hood River Guide for 2026 and the Skamania Lodge Guide. We have placed an order with Travel Oregon, which is managed by Media America, for a package of ads that is managed through Travel Oregon, which are stories. And so we'll be working on some editorial content, some photography, and probably some video for those that will go out in their online promotions via Travel Oregon. So we'll give you more information about that as that kind of shapes up. We had, we had processed a payment of $500 to the International Mountain Biking Association for their assessment of Cascade Locks being designated as a trail town. This is really important for our future marketing efforts for that key market for our campground users. Jeremiah worked on the SEDS update for this year and specifically to update some of the transportation projects that are sent to Region 1. We've finally, for sure, closed out the LGGP grant for the Harvey Road restroom. They needed a few more photos. And that is done. And Parker and I are still working on the ROMTech details for the Marine Park East restroom order, but that will go through. And then one thing that we should mention for the Recreation Point property that's in your comprehensive land use plan, we've restarted communications with the USACE real estate reps for the extinguishment of their easement along that shoreline there. That was part of the 2016 WRDA bill. they have, thanks to Parker's help last year, they completed their phase 1 environmental stuff that they had to do and a couple of their assessments for that extinguishment. And then we got to a point where now they needed us to cough up some money to complete the project. And last February, the amount of money that we needed to come up with for that was $125,000. So we've reached out and said, okay, new administration, do you have new guidance on that? Is it still 125? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? What should we be telling our commission during their budget planning process for that? And so hopefully we'll hear back from them soon if they're all still there. And Danmar is going to be talking with them directly and sort of working on, he's on the, as a liaison.
That's at Dexter's office.
Yeah,
They
and he
wanted
worked out to
back from
Dexter's office, yeah, yeah.
Additional information.
Yeah, and the other thing, you know, Dan will give you a report at your next meeting, I believe, but he's also working on at the federal level and at the state level. This year, there's, of course, congressionally directed spending or quote unquote earmarks that we can submit and ask for to our representatives. And, you know, other planning that Dan's working on for the Oregon session. You know, I don't know if we'll have a Christmas tree ask this year, but we probably should have a Christmas tree bill ask every year. And we need to be talking about what are those projects that come out of this plan that maybe are the $1 to $2 sign projects in the near term category that maybe we can put together and ask for a Christmas tree funding for that. And that's it for me.
Very cool. And me and Dan have had an opportunity to kind of sit down and go over projects. He hasn't seen one yet that jumps out to him as, hey, that one's got a clear shot. It doesn't mean we shouldn't still ask. But we don't have anything right now that we'd call low hanging fruit, home run. Not that any Christmas tree bill is a home run.
Yeah.
But nothing one that jumps out right immediately at us, but we'll continue to work on that.
I forgot one, and it's because I'm in denial, but I've fallen victim to my first headhunting loss at the Port of Cascade Locks. We are losing the amazing Joanne Wallace, who is our finance specialist. She has been recruited by this Skamania County Dispatch, which she formerly was a 911 dispatcher in Skamania County, and she's amazing, and they've taken her away from us. And so many thanks and kudos to Carrie Ann. She is filling a lot more gaps than she normally fills. And we don't have a finalized personnel plan on how to react to this and also any regular shifts, but Jeremiah and I are working on that. We'll have it ready before your budget planning process. What's that?
We've known for a while that process for hiring is
There's so much background.
pretty lengthy. So she gave us a long heads up on it. So we've kind of known it was going this direction, but she finally passed her.
But I'm shaking my fist at Skamania
psychological
right now.
I think it's a psychological test, but it's an awesome opportunity for her. Gets her back in an industry that she enjoys. Couldn't believe, I didn't know she'd never done it before, but
yeah,
she said, I was like, of course you did. Like, it makes perfect sense.
If I'm calling 911, it's going to be great that Joanne's the one that's picking up that.
Wants to, some dusting sticks.
Yeah, go beat those guys. Yeah. We'll fight her to the death for Joanne, but she's been amazing help this past year and just really big help. I'm going to miss her a lot.
I'll be quick. I'll touch base on a couple of things. One, a little bit on Joanne. We will not immediately be posting that position to rehire it. Again, Carrie Ann has stepped in and is taking over a lot of those responsibilities. There are also a number of her responsibilities that we have the opportunity to continue with our automation on the accounts receivable side. So we really want to kind of see how that plays out before we look at what exactly we're rehiring for and what those job duties will be. Optimistically, we'll have it by budget season.
Yeah.
I do really want to see what the workflow is like before I commit to a new job description and what that job does. There are other places where gaps need to be filled, specifically in Parker's department. He spends a tremendous amount of time away from the more difficult parts of his job, taking tolls. So there are other gaps that may need filled. So again, from a strategic standpoint, generally, even I will continue to look at that. But I do want to see this play out for a while. Carrie Ann said she definitely doesn't want to be at the front desk forever, so that's understood. But
the exam capacity to handle multiple like that.
I forgot to ask you that. Can you do that? No,
Probably not.
I'm just teasing. That's definitely, we've had conversations with both her and Joanne over what her roles and responsibilities are, what things Carrie Ann may need to give up in the short period of time as we work through it. So we do have a plan in place. No, for sure, it's
Yeah.
great, absolutely.
The new role popped on me in addition to my current roles, and I'm a little in over my head, so
Yeah.
you don't get that.
I don't
Yeah.
know that Carrie Ann hasn't held every single role in this
Yeah.
port except executive director,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
If anybody doesn't know, Carrie Ann started as a
Yeah.
toll taker, and then you were
Yes,
front
yeah.
desk, and then secretary, and then all, yeah,
Hell of all
for sure.
trades, exactly.
The other thing that I will tease just a little bit, me and Parker are still talking about it. We're gonna take a field trip out to Flex One. So the contract has come to end with the Bitcoin operator that's in Flex One, the first half of Flex One. It was Colin, now it's Bo. Bo took it over for a year. We had a year-long lease with them. They're going to move out of they're moved out of that building as of like today or yesterday.
The 15th.
The 15th. At one point in time, we talked about potentially moving the maintenance department out to Snyder's property and looking at putting incubator spaces in the maintenance department. After Parker got a good look at that, he started kind of noodling that maybe we could put the maintenance department there. So we will take a look at that space. We will also sit down with Matt in finance and see what that means not to have that lease and what it means for the money we're paying on that building and see how that pencils out. It'll certainly be less than what it would be to rent for Snyder, so it's ultimately going to pencil out, but we'll bring you the numbers on it. We have concerns about being neighbors with our tenants a little bit, but for the most part, it could be an answer to your guys' incubator spaces down there. But that's to come in the future.
You're already neighbors with one of the tenants anyways.
This is true. This is true.
That guy, Colin's gone?
Colin's gone. Yeah, Colin rolled up. Bo bought out Colin, and they were working together. And as far as we understand, it's just Bo now.
Okay.
And they'll be moving over into Bob Sirk's property in the other smaller business park that's next to ours. Well, the business park that's next to ours is not any smaller.
Because Colin came in just a couple of days ago to the
Yeah, he lives here now.
to Buddy's and
Yeah.
said he just moved to town.
Yeah,
He just bought a car.
Colin's one of those guys that will never be out of work. His mind goes a mile a minute,
Yeah.
so he's on to the next endeavor, whatever it is. Another piece that I'll bring up, campground study, which I know we're all waiting with bated breath on. I hope to have it today for this meeting. It looks like it'll be at the February 3rd meeting. Ultimately, what it's going to say, and I'll just touch on it here briefly. They studied the 25 acres that we own. The easy access from 84 makes it desirable. The fact that we have direct river access, that's pretty desirable and a little bit uncommon in the port. They do some evaluation on nationwide sort of trends in camping, so you'll see that as you go through the study. You guys will have an opportunity to look at this here relatively soon before that actual meeting, but wanted to at least know that it's about done. They also did a 5-year financial study on it and the expectations of what that could bring in. You guys will have an opportunity to look at that. We will do that one separately from the campground consulting group, and we'll bring in Matt Atkin for him to give his sort of feedback on that.
Right.
So it's expected to have normal vacancy in the early years. They're expecting it not to be year-round. Visitation will gradually increase, but by the 5th year of operation, the campground is expected to cover its operating costs and consistently bringing in more money than it spends. We'll have some more numbers to add to that, but again, just projections. The overall conclusion of it is it will say that the development risks are consistent with all campground developments and that the likelihood is high that it will be a successful campground. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what that study said, right? Whew. the nuts and bolts of what that study says in 147 pages.
Yeah.
It's a long study.
Wow.
The last 51 pages are really what you guys are going to be looking for unless you want to explore everything camping has to hold. But it's a good study. When we received it back, you could tell it was definitely typically for small business owners, investors, and maybe a different audience than a public entity or one to be presented in a public meeting. So there were some things we asked them to clean up just from, you know, you could tell Eco Northwest, not their first government contract. Maybe we're probably one of the few that they've actually done that wasn't a private entity. So a few things we asked them to clean up to bring back to a public meeting, and we hope to have that.
I was happy with the reading through the perspective of those like Eco Northwest about what they believe
Yeah.
is the potential success of the campground as far as, and the idea of making commercial adjacent to it as far as what they saw as the potential for our filling that out and getting investment interest and that sort of thing. So it was nice to have them think that that was good.
Yeah.
So a reminder that we have the again the chamber dinner on Friday. If you are interested in bringing a significant other or partner, the event afterwards is doing banjos, and it's really entertaining, and it's a great opportunity for us to meet with the other folks on the other side of the river. We can purchase those tickets and you can be reimbursed. It's kind of easier to get us all sat together if one person does that. So let us know if that's something we can do for you. And then we have SDAO coming up in, what are the dates?
February
5th through 8th. Are you gonna be there?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Ready to
That's
give
what
me a
you always-
panel
that's what
discussion?
you always say, and then you're never at it. I see you on the agenda all the time.
Active.
I went to OPPA and I was like, Tommy's here. And no. So cool. But SDAO as well will be coming up. So if you'll be attending that, make sure.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Right, I think I'm gonna stay over. I think I'm gonna get a hotel one more night. Maybe not. Maybe I'll come watch it at Buddy's. We'll see. But yeah, it's on Super Bowl Sunday. But be in contact with Carrie Ann if there's anything that specific that you need. I think I have a couple folks that are bringing dogs, so I got a sort of an interesting hotel. The hotel allows dogs. I got us an interesting hotel this year. It's a little different than what I typically get. It's down on the promenade. It's a little bit boutique-y and a little industrial, and we'll see. Maybe we'll stay there again. Maybe we won't. But we are on the promenade, so.
I think I'm in the front gates is the governor's tourism.
Yeah, I
It's
jumped.
March
I
7th?
March 7th. That's right. Oh, great. I'm glad you brought that up.
That sounded very sarcastic,
No.
by the way.
Are we registering you? Or are you gonna go?
Yeah, I believe I am. Yeah.
Would there be? You can give me some advice here too on the fly in person. I'd like to take one of our strategic tourism partners with me and Albert to that event. We would not pay for hotel or anything like that, but would pay for her registration to go to that event. It would be the mayor of Cascade Locks who is responsible for the tourism group. And that particular piece is being rebuilt right now. And I think that at this point, the head of the city doesn't have as much of a background in tourism or things like a DMO and how big that industry actually exists.
Yeah.
That was certainly the biggest thing that I learned when I went was, oh my goodness, like I could dedicate every day, all day to this. It's a full-time job. And she's going to put a tourism group together whose focus is going to be spending those TLT dollars, which, you know, we're building a campground. Probably going to be 40 grand a year that we're going to be pumping into that TLT. And I'd love the opportunity to take somebody from the city to that.
Seemed like a
To that.
productive
Do you
conversation.
see?
I got to sit in on
That's
that.
doing that? Okay.
Kind of blew her mind a little bit.
Okay.
When we talked about marketing and actual strategic marketing plan, which has never existed very well in the tourism committee anyway. And you know, even back when I was mayor, it was kind of always a little bit sketchy.
Tommy's gonna take a look at that and get back to me on that, but that's something I'll probably present to you guys in another meeting. So kick that around. She said if that didn't work out, she understood. We missed the opportunity to go for a scholarship, or we would have done that last year. Laurel went on a scholarship, so other folks have gone. The tourism group has gone to this before, but not somebody in a leadership position. So. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, actually, completely.
See, you know, sister, I haven't heard anything about Red Cross lately.
Yeah. Brenda was gonna pick a date for a training and Nan Notenboom is ready to do said training, so we're just kind of waiting on a date, yeah.
So do we have our strategic, our yearly kind of strategic planning, meeting? Do we have that scheduled at all? Because typically it's in the spring.
Yeah, no, we haven't scheduled it yet.
Planning.
And we'll take a look at, it. Our strategic business plan is certainly much stronger than it's been under previous commissions. And I don't mean to be negative on that, but it's much stronger and it's much more, it's very well laid out in terms of which projects need to be completed and under what time frame. And there was a lot of us coming back and sort of redoing our strategic business plan every year at those meetings. This year it'll be more of us crossing off the list of things that we've done and then moving new things onto the list. So how we're going to structure that and how we're going to put that meeting together is still a little bit up in the air. So the answer is yes, it may just look a little bit different and may not be a thing where we need to go spend 4 hours going through everything that we, you guys went to that the very first time before you guys even joined the commission. It was 4 hours long. It was a whole day long.
Yeah.
It used to be 2 days long.
Day and a half.
Yeah, it used to, and it was a lot of just like the same stuff you guys are living and breathing. So we want to look at how to redo that in a way that is a little bit more focused. And we put the work in for that not to take more than a meeting, really. I mean, you guys know what you want to accomplish next. This here will inform that a little bit. So I think there'll be more work that happens here that we then bring to that strategic planning and go, okay, we've done all of these things. They're not on the list anymore. That gives us some more capacity. What do we want to move onto it? So it'll look and feel a little bit different. I'm not saying we couldn't do a longer thing that, we have a dinner and we have the economists come from and we have a speaker and we do all of that. I think there's good opportunities to that, but this commission is also more involved in some of the events and trips that we go on, like SDAO. And so we have an opportunity to sort of spend time together and have those meals together and get these ideas done. So I don't know, we're just a little bit higher functioning group that could probably get a strategic business update done in 90 minutes instead of 4 hours.
Great. As long as I don't ask questions.
As long as what?
Asking.
As long as you don't ask questions.
All right,
Right.
nothing else come before the commission. We're adjourned.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
So.